Hello everyone and welcome to Finding Solution. I'm Dan Albas. I serve as the Member of Parliament for Okanagan, Lake West, South Kelowna. And Finding Solutions is a podcast about the people who are working hard every day, not for the spotlight, not for the headlines, but are in the trenches doing the hard work to make our communities better and our country stronger. So today we're continuing our ongoing segment on Okanagan Stories and Solutions, where we actually speak to people that are working locally to make our communities better. And I'm very happy because today joining me is Opie Sidhu, an Okanagan-born public policy professional, a community volunteer, and a small business owner who's leading a project to collect and preserve Sikh stories, photographs, family histories, temple memories, farming experiences, and business contributions across Kelowna, Penticton, Summerland, and throughout the broader South Okanagan. So these stories are part of the Okanagan itself. They speak to families who've worked hard, built businesses, and contributed to agriculture, community life, and helped shape the region that we're so lucky to be in today. They also remind us that building strong communities takes effort. Incidents such as we've seen recently with a single family on a Mother's Day confrontation in downtown Kelowna reminds us that prejudice still surfaces, and when it does, leadership and community matters. People need to be able to speak up, stand together, and reaffirm the values of respect and decency that we all share. And today, what I'm most excited about, and we talked about this, Opie, at Vasaki in Kelowna, is that you've put together a collection of stories that I think everyone will be interested in and can relate to.
Absolutely.
So welcome to Finding Solutions. I'm super excited to have you here today, Opie.
Thank you for having me, Dan. Really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Great. So for listeners who may not know you, let's talk about you first, about you, your background, what you're doing in the Okanagan, your business. So let's start with that.
Sure, yeah. I was originally born in Penticton, raised in Summerland. Grew up on an orchard there, an apple and cherry farm. So I spent the first 17 years of my life doing that, and then left to get educated, lived on the prairies for about 17 years. Got my master's in public policy while I was out in Winnipeg, and then worked for the federal and provincial government doing a little bit of audit and evaluation. Also worked for Immigration Canada as a citizenship officer. So I got a lot of good public sector experience, and then eventually wanted to come back and then got into a little bit of consulting. And then once the pandemic hit, I came back to help my family farm. There was a lot of labor shortages, a lot of issues with the crops having issues with the climate and whatnot. So when that happened, we decided to kind of reorganize ourselves and help my parents out. Once I did that, I just also started a construction company to stay a little bit extra busy and do that with a few of my friends on the side. And staying really busy since I've been back.
So you worked in public policy and you've been involved in community service, helping your family, and you also run a small business, a construction firm.
That's correct, yes.
Well,
a roofing
and while trying to help out your family. So where do you find the time to do a project like you're doing now?
You know what, I've always been an academic, so for me this is a little bit of a pleasure to get into the archives and learn a little bit more about our history. And to be honest, I was a big fan of Ghost Trails and Ghost Towns with Mike Roberts and Bill Barley, and I think they kind of planted that his history, that historical Okanagan history seed in me, and I still watch their episodes from time to time. So for me, it's really something that I like to do, and to learn, it brings me joy, and to help my community as well.
That's amazing. Now, what inspired you to start collecting and preserving Sikh history, specifically in the Okanagan?
That's a very good question. So when I was volunteering, I was helping newcomers, and what we wanted to do was we wanted to highlight mentorship programs where we bring in members of the community with some of our newcomers so that they can learn, about the work culture, the sociological culture, just different things about Canada. And I thought they would be a good idea to to basically start a booth at the Vaisakhi Parade to talk about some of the historical examples here that we have in Kelowna that show communities coming together and working together through adversity and basically mentoring one another at certain times and a lot of good things happening out of those positive relationships.
So, Opie, tell me, of all the projects you could have chosen, because you're such a busy person, what inspired you to start collecting and preserving Sikh history in the Okanagan?
That's a really good question. So when I was volunteering at the Vaisakhi Parade, we wanted to highlight basically mentorship programs for newcomers and how they can partner with existing community members to learn more about our culture, our work culture, our history, and maybe even some business practices along the way. And a way I wanted to highlight that was to look at Okanagan's rich history and look at examples of where we've done that in the past. And one example that really sticks out is with Mr. Basran of the Hillcrest organization, the charity firm, and his partnership with the Stewart family of Quails Gate Winery, where the racist policies of those times didn't allow him to have citizenship, so he was not allowed to buy property. And what happened was he had made an agreement with Mr. Stewart of Quails Gate Winery, and they had agreed that on a farmer's handshake that Mr. Stewart would hold the property for Mr. Basran until the laws changed to allow him to buy that property in his name.
So about what time would this story have happened?
This would have happened in the late, Mr. Basran came in the 1914, so this would have been the early 20s.
Okay,
Yeah.
So he wanted to come to the Okanagan, he wanted to farm, and these laws that wouldn't allow him to own property. And so it sounded to me like, first of all, obviously those laws were wrong-headed.
Yeah.
But being an entrepreneurial person, he found a way to make it work. But
that's right.
That's quite a risk, though, to say that you're going to take all of your money to set aside to purchase land. You're going to give it to someone else to purchase for you. That's quite a risk.
Absolutely. And I think it's a testament to the relationship that Mr. Basran had with Mr. Stewart and the trust that they had between one another. And I'm sure working in the farms, you build that trust through blood, sweat, and tears. And when you see someone working that hard, I think that rapport is probably built and that trust was there. Without that, it was just on a handshake. They didn't have a contract. And even if they did have a contract, it probably wouldn't have been valid because of the laws preventing it for those property rights to be protected for Mr. Basran.
Well, and again, that's something I think the Stewart family obviously have kept to this day because their reputation and their word is their bond.
Absolutely.
So that's a really great example. So when you see stories like that, what does that communicate to you?
It shows to me basically what we can create when communities come together, especially when there's adversity. Because when these individuals met, they probably didn't realize the ripple effect that they were having in terms of basically bringing communities together so that we could create a strong agricultural environment that has allowed for many people to have jobs and look at this amazing place that we have now, basically built on these relationships that allowed for these organizations to blossom and then for our agricultural community to prosper here.
Well, I'm sure all the hard work that everyone did to develop something that's become such a fundamental part of the Okanagan.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this was early days of the Okanagan. When these folks were coming in, there wasn't much of an agricultural industry here. Some of the aqueducts were still being developed, and a lot of the funding from the federal government was just arriving for the developing of the early orchards. So these folks were definitely some pioneers that have built a lasting memory for sure.
Absolutely. Well, it's a real testament to both the Basran and the Stewart families, and it's a great example that we should bear in mind.
Absolutely.
Good. What is another story that caught your attention when you started doing the research?
That's a really good question. So the other story that really jumped out at me was in 1947, there was a gentleman by the name of Captain Cecil Robert Bull, and he was a really interesting fellow because he was actually an MLA from Kelowna. but he was actually born in India, raised in India, or sorry, not born in India, but then sent back to Scotland. His dad was actually a tea planter working in India. Oh. So it's kind of funny. It's, you know, they were kind of immigrants of India. Then he got sent back to Scotland, and then he came to Canada, excuse me. But once he was in Canada, he worked various jobs. Eventually enlisted in the Canadian military, fought overseas in World War I, and then was actually severely injured. He lost his left arm and lost one of his kidneys, so he was technically disabled after that. But once he returned, he kept on working, was on disability, but eventually became MLA of the South Okanagan. He tried to re-enlist during World War II, but they wouldn't let him just because of you know, what had happened. But you could tell his spirit was there, and he was a really interesting gentleman because not only did he have this amazing, very interesting, very successful life on the side, he was actually one of the first, I would say, early community advocates. Because what had happened was there was a family by the name of the Sunga family who had owned a farm on the outskirts of Kelowna in the 1920s. And that family's father had died. So the mother was a widow and they had 4 children. The eldest child was named Ajit Kaur Sidhu, and she was basically an advocate herself because at the age of 25, they sold the house and wanted to move into town, into Kelowna. However, at that time, there were certain individuals that thought that if that family moved into town, it would bring down property value and it would cause other issues. So they actually they took that issue to City Hall and tried to block the house purchase, so that Ajit and her widowed mother and her siblings couldn't buy that house. And that's when Mr. Robert Cecil Bull stepped in and advocated on their behalf. And I was actually able to find this really interesting news article from August 22nd, 1946. And here it says, taxpayers object to Hindu buying city house, but girl openly defies all protests. So that just kind of shows you the racial
overtones right there.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, she was a proud Sikh woman, but the racial connotations they were obviously referring to her through other means. But
they didn't even get her religion correct.
They didn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they were. It was blatantly discriminatory towards her. Didn't get the facts right, and that's the headline. Exactly. That people were reading.
Exactly, and you can even see here it says, where is it? Okay, so taxpayers concerned over future see property value fall. Other Orientals come into neighborhood. Hindu girl declares family has rights to live in city. 5-day cooling off period over property sale. So basically, it got really heated. And then when Robert stepped in, he strongly advocated and talked about Sikh history, Sikh contributions, and how during the war they were brave, they were loyal. And by the end of it, City Hall actually realized that what they were doing was wrong, and they basically stepped back and allowed the sale to happen. But without Robert stepping in, and without Ajit being such a strong young woman at that time, those discriminatory policies would have been enacted on that family. And, they were definitely planting the seeds for the early Sikh community here. So what Robert did was definitely help pave the way along with Ajit for the community to finally get settled and allow for them to have access. Because one of the reasons why they wanted to move into town was for the children to have access to school. Because out in the country, basically, Far Rutland is too far from the city center. So they wanted to get away from that so that the kids could have better access.
So again, there was a small group, but very vocal, that tried to stop it, saying that somehow this family didn't have the right.
Exactly.
And Ajit stood up for her family. Exactly. And she received some help from a political figure there who said that you can't do that.
Exactly. He was very well-rounded, lots of life experiences, and understood what the significance of that would be, of preventing this person from that community to not allowed to participate in Canadian culture.
And again, that's you're reading directly from the Kelowna Courier, now known as the Daily Courier. But again, that's what people were reading and seeing, and so for people to stand up and assert that was not the case, that took a lot of courage, both from Ajit and her family, and obviously from Mr. Bull.
Exactly, and the thing with Ajit is, here I can show you some more pictures of her. So this is her and her family in 1937. This is their farm out in Rutland. There's a little dog right there. And I actually turned this into color so you can really see all the details.
Yeah.
And this is her in 1987. So this is her as a grandma with her grandchildren. And the cool thing about her is that even though after all this happened, she did get educated, and she basically became like the community's a navigator. When newcomers would come, she would help them navigate. She'd be the translator and the interpreter. And she was basically doing what we have now with our community resource centers here. There's a lot of individuals that do what she's doing with helping newcomers get comfortable with, the language and maybe navigating the bureaucracy with all the paperwork and whatnot. So she was definitely a trailblazer in many ways, and left a lasting legacy. And very, very proud of what she did.
That is an amazing story.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, and I'm very glad that we're recounting here.
Of course.
Good.
Thank you.
What else would you like to? What other stories?
Yeah. So coming a little bit more modern to the modern times, a little bit. So we'll fast forward. Another really interesting story that I found was of Satinder Sindi Hawkins, and she was also an MLA from Kelowna, and she was actually a very specialized nurse who became a lawyer, and then advocated in very specialized health cases, was a minister of healthcare planning. And the unfortunate thing about her situation is that she was diagnosed with leukemia. But when she was diagnosed with leukemia, she actually helped raise millions of dollars for stem cell research for cancer. So she was a huge part of not only the Punjabi community here, but also advocating for the healthcare supports for cancer patients.
Well, that's an amazing thing because, as we all know, the innovations that are coming out now is based on research that has been done, and really that's an amazing thing to take a personal tragedy and not let that stop you from trying to find a solution.
Absolutely. And she did pass away, but in her memory, there is the Sindi Hawkins Cancer Center in Kelowna. And she also was responsible for bringing the medical campus to UBCO as well. So even though she's not here with us anymore, her legacy is definitely here. And she's very, very inspirational. And as you can tell, very, very educated and a trailblazer in her own right.
Well, I think that's probably the reason the MLA that succeeded her, Norm Letnick, always had a very strong focus on healthcare.
Yes.
Was probably because of Cindy's example.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And definitely a role model and trailblazer.
Yeah, well, we need people to do those things. And even when it's tough. I know because I work with the all-party parliamentarians cancer caucus.
Okay, yeah.
And so we have a number of survivors or people that have families who have gone through, because 2 out of 5 Canadians will get cancer. And so, trying to find those solutions, especially when you've had that kind of cancer diagnosis, that's an amazing show of fortitude.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and here in the Okanagan, I think we have a little bit higher rates than some of the other parts of the province. So definitely important for us folks in the Okanagan to have that.
Absolutely. Well, great example of public service and legacy.
Absolutely. And I also want to mention Mohini Singh because she originally did a lot of this research back in 2005 for the Kelowna Centennial. And a lot of the research that I used for this was borrowed and built on that. And what I want to do is what she did for Kelowna for Penticton and the surrounding area, because when I shared a lot of this information, I had friends and family from Penticton and Oliver reach out to me saying that we need to do something for that area as well, because a lot of the old timers that went through those situations, some of them are here, but some of them aren't here anymore. And that was mentioned to me, and that kind of shows the importance of capturing these stories while these people are still here, and making sure that we can share them with our community to build stronger communities as well.
Well, Mohini's been sharing people's stories for a long time.
That's right, yes.
But also her knowledge of agriculture and her advocacy for people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great example of someone who's worked very hard. And again, has done some work that now everyone is saying, hey, what about us as well?
Exactly. Yeah, trailblazer in her own right. Absolutely.
So let's just talk about the South Okanagan then. So what have you learned about some of the earliest Sikh families who settled in the Southern Okanagan?
That's a good question. So from my understanding is that there was a little bit of a different migration patterns in the Okanagan for Sikhs and Punjabis. And what happened was some of the earlier migration patterns, they mainly came to Kelowna, and the South Okanagan didn't see much Sikh immigration until the much later immigration waves, like the ones basically in the 60s and 70s. So from my understanding, we didn't really have too much Sikh immigration until much later. And it's funny because when you talk to people from the South Okanagan versus North Okanagan, it resembles. So what happened was Punjab is basically, you have your North and South Punjab, and the North is called Doaba, right? And the South is called Malwa, right? And so what happened is the big cities are in Doaba, and those were the early immigration guys. They came from the big cities. So those are the ones that came to Kelowna in the 30s, and they speak Punjabi and they're Sikh and whatnot, but they have a slightly different dialect, so you can pick it up. And, when I came to Kelowna, I'm like, oh, they say butter differently, or they say rain differently, because the ones from the South Okanagan, the ones that came in the 70s and the 60s, they're from Malwa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
they bring in those slightly different, distinct differences, or
very, very small. It's almost like it would be the difference between someone from BC versus Alberta, where they, or maybe like BC versus Newfoundland, where there's just a little bit difference in how they say it.
Tomato, potato, potato.
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So I want to look a little bit more into that and kind of find some records to back that up as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you begun this effort, you've obviously spoken with families across the region, all throughout the Okanagan. Mm-hmm. So what common themes just keep appearing to you as you go through that?
The common themes are obviously their attachment to agriculture, because it's a part of their culture, it's a part of their religion in some senses, and also how they use that culture and religion to get through adversary. So part of Sikhism is there's a saying called Chardhi Kala, and that means to have internal optimism. So whenever things are bad, you're always supposed to hold your head up high and your chest out. And I think that these early Sikh immigrants never forgot the philosophy of Chardhi Kala, which is to be internally optimistic about situations and never giving up.
Yeah, well, especially if you have hit obstacles, as the Basran family found.
Absolutely, and Ajit as well. That
yes.
That was a big one, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So why do you think preserving these stories matters, not just for the Sikh families of the Okanagan, but for everyone who calls the Okanagan home?
I think it's important to show how we've all been here for a long time, working together, living together, and how that when we work together, that we not only become stronger individuals, but we become stronger as communities. And that can lead to beautiful things such as Quails Gate Winery or Hillcrest Cherry Farms and countless other examples. Another modern example is of Kelowna Winery, organic winery in West Kelowna. I'm good friends with Colonel Sidhu, who owns that winery, and he said that he learned everything that he knows from Mission Hill Winery who took him on and basically taught him the ropes so that he could branch out. But it's those mentoring relationships where that can lead to other opportunities for individuals, and when that could lead to many more other opportunities. So it's this chain, this butterfly effect of good things happening when people work together. So I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Now, we've seen incidents over the years that remind us of prejudice and that racism still can exist beneath the surface. As someone who's documenting these histories, how do you see these challenges? Because obviously you're looking at all the positive things that these families have done and created in their lives and passed on, but also over the incredible obstacles.
I think the best way to make sure that doesn't happen is to have community members to stand one another, to stand together when this happens, and to tell and to have strong repercussions in terms of deterrence, and that can be done through policy. If you have strong policy that basically de-incentivizes that type of behavior, that can send a strong message. But also when you have different members of different community groups working together, I think shows a strong example of what we can do when we work together rather than working against one another. But those examples need to be highlighted and shown that diversity does give us strength.
Well, like we saw with Cecil Bull, he saw a situation happening where a woman and her family were being treated unfairly and stood up despite other people wanting the opposite.
Exactly.
And what we saw on Mother's Day just this past year with Sam Singla and his family, where they were just trying to have a nice Mother's Day, ended up being subject to a racist rant. Now, obviously the RCMP did their job, investigated it, found that it was not criminal in nature.
Yeah.
But what was heartening for me was to hear Sam say that number one, he hoped that individual got help, but also that there was a strong community response, politicians, myself included.
That's right.
But also from the community, people reaching out and saying that was wrong. And I think that's social sanction.
Yes.
By everyone, I think reinforced the decent expectations we have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So do you think learning more about our neighbors' histories and experiences can help us to reduce prejudice and misunderstandings?
Yes, I absolutely think that they can, because it shows examples of people working together. And, there's even for myself, my personal history, my dad was mentored by a Portuguese fella by the name of Joe Pereira, that he basically taught him the ropes of how to farm and built on what he knew in Punjab. So I think without people coming together, we're losing that synergy, and without that synergy, we lose the potential of exponential growth. When we work together, it's 5 to the power of 2 rather than 5 plus 5. So what I'm trying to say is that when we work together, we're exponentially increasing our capacity and our opportunity.
So I love that Kelowna Community Resources has been working and encouraging your work and trying to get the stories out there. But what role do you think schools, community organizations, faith communities, families, local leaders play in strengthening this understanding of our history and bridging people together?
Yeah, I think it's important to have various community groups working on objectives together, and also having dialogue through shared committees where we have members of different communities sitting together, bringing their perspectives, and then also working on issues that are affecting Kelowna, but as a diverse, basically, committee of different community groups. Because when we have all those people sitting at one table, they're bringing in from different perspectives from different communities, and that's how we can, get better dialogue. And with better dialogue, we get better solutions.
So in Canada right now, we do see our Jewish communities, families throughout the country. They're under a lot of stress right now.
Yes.
I've been encouraged by my conversation with Jewish people in Kelowna and Vancouver, that when there's these episodes that leaders have to speak out, and that's one of the reasons why I've done that. The UBC Okanagan international student was beaten up by a bunch of cowards.
Yeah.
And so we need to call those things out. Are there other communities that you've seen that Sikhs are working with to try to, again, create a society that we all feel that we're respected in?
Yeah, absolutely. Sikhs have definitely worked with other members from the South Asian community, whether they be Muslims or Hindus. Myself, I have Hindu family members. So a lot of people forget Punjabis are Sikhs and Hindus. And I think it's important to have those mixed perspectives from mixed backgrounds. And the Sikhs have also worked very closely with various disadvantaged communities, and it's part of the religion to basically stand up for the disenfranchised. And I think there's multiple examples of that in our history.
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. When the fires happened, I think Dougal Creek
That's
fire,
right.
we saw Sikh benevolent organizations from throughout BC phoning saying, how can we help support?
With supplies and whatnot. And the blood drives, a lot of big donors with the blood drives as well. So whenever there's emergencies, there's always a good Sikh community organization willing to help, which is very important. So that's a good message.
Opie, you've been very generous with your time, and I do hope that maybe we can come back after you've put together even more stories, so we can continue to talk about it. But if there's one thing you would like our audience to know, a message that you'd like to drive home about your work and what you're trying to do here, what would that be?
It would be that volunteer and be comfortable of getting out of your comfort zone, because you never know what helping someone can lead to. And just remember that when we work together, it's a synergistic relationship, and that can lead to exponential growth. And that's what we want to do. We want to be constantly growing and constantly helping each other.
Well, Opie, thank you again for joining us today and for the work you're doing to preserve an important part of our region's history. And one of the things that's really stood out to me in our conversation today is that history becomes real when it's told through people and families. And the stories you've shared remind us of the institutions that have been built by everyone.
Yes.
And bringing in some of the unique stories that we've said here of former MLA Sindi Hawkins and her contributions, Councillor Mohini Singh, as well as Ajit and her family, the Kaur family, and the Stewarts and the Basrans.
Yes.
I've learned a lot, and I hope our people have too, and I look forward to our next conversation. And if people, Opie, just before we finish up here, if people have photographs or family stories or memories that they want to make part of your record, how best do they get a hold of you?
You can email me at opie.sidhu@gmail.com, and that'll help me basically grow our archival material and get that South Okanagan piece put together as well.
Well,
thank you, Dan.
Thank you again for being here. So thank you also to all of our listeners who have joined us here today. If you liked this episode, please, we do have other ones where we're honoring, again, Okanagan Stories and Solutions. Please do reach out to Opie, and whatever we do, let's just keep finding solutions together.